Yep.
All right, high five. You got it. Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy Nick.
And Teresa.
And we are
Candidly
Candidly
Crawford. So, basically, we've been quite busy, as you can see. Our first podcast episode was launched over a month ago, and now we feel it's very important for us to launch this one. So, we've been quite busy. So, babe, tell them what we've been up to lately.
We've been doing ministry work. We've been busy with our jobs. It's the holidays, and this year we are hosting Christmas at our house.
Yes,
So that's
y'all
been
pray for me.
that's been a lot. Trying to get the house ready. My in-laws or my in-laws, they're coming into town. My mother-in-law, and then we have my sister, my brother, and then the rest of my family coming together. So it's been a lot.
Yeah, it's been a lot of prep work, I will say, because we actually just moved into our home in October, so it's been quite a bit lately. Not only that, work for me has been super crazy, very long nights, a lot of days of being very stressed out, so Nick has been a witness to that. But not only that, we've been doing a lot in ministry. God has really been moving in our lives regarding ministry.
Yeah.
Nick can talk a little bit more about that as well.
Yeah, we've just been serving in our church, and so that's taken up a lot of time for us. Don't you think, Teresa?
Yeah, but it's been a labor of love. It's not that we're complaining or anything, but as I've mentioned before, when Nick and I, when we pray, we always say we pray and ask God, to bless us so we can be a blessing, and He's done just that. So no complaints over here. It's just a lot of work. I will say that when you're working, for me, I'm just speaking for myself, but when you're working very late hours and then, I'm trying to serve in ministry as well, but I do give it my all. Of course, I don't come half-stepping with that, but
Ain't no half-stepping.
oh wow. So it's definitely been great to see how fast God has moved.
Yes.
Just off of that answer prayer.
Yes, and one more thing, Teresa. We were just appointed leaders over the grief share ministry at our church.
Yes, we have been newly appointed leaders over our widow/grief share ministry at church. So y'all be in prayer with us, and actually that's going to lead us into our topic for our podcast. We are going to talk about grief. It's the holiday season.
Yes.
Special occasions come up, birthdays, anything can trigger grief. And I don't care how long it's been since a loved one has passed, or whatever situation has caused you grief. There are certain times in your life, and even though over the course of years, where grief pops up, and it's like a roller coaster.
Yes, I say that all the time. Grief is like a roller coaster that you cannot get off. You have some of your good days, which you are on a high, which you don't think about grief, and then you'll hit a sharp curve or a steep hill, and you'll be engulfed in grief. So, yeah, that's what we'll be sharing on this podcast.
Yeah, so you guys stay locked in. We'll be back after this brief moment where we're going to transition into sharing our grief stories. Stay tuned.
All right. And we're back. This is Nick.
And this is Teresa.
With Candidly Crawford. So, I will be starting sharing my relationship with grief. I say that all the time because at an early age, I built a relationship with grief. At the age of 3, my dad and my grandmother, they were killed in a head-on collision. And so that's when I started my relationship. Actually, I didn't know how to handle that grief because I was just 3. You know what I'm saying, Teresa?
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't deal with that. There would be times where I didn't understand why he was no longer here, but I never dealt with it. So, coming up in school, Father's Day was really rough. playing different sports and seeing other people's father there, that was kind of rough.
Yeah.
And so my mom, she remarried, and this is bad, but I thought that he was going to take the place of my dad, and I was sadly mistaken. So it put a band-aid on grief, and for me, I just shoved all of those emotions that now I'm growing into. I shoved it to the back of the corner or swept it under the rug.
Yeah.
So, I went through high school, not really dealing with it. I just knew that I wouldn't talk about my dad not being here. And I resented a lot of people for having both parents a part of their lives.
And that's normal, actually.
Yeah.
In a situation like yours.
And it's crazy now that I think about it. Let me rewind. As a child, I remember seeing my cousins talk to their dad, and I wanted to call their father daddy. And it's just, now that I think about it, it's really crazy. But
That's not crazy. I mean, it's the void. You want that void filled, and you didn't really have a chance later on in your later years to even, be cognizant of you saying the word dad or daddy.
yes.
So that's normal.
So I recently just thought about that. I was like, man, what? I felt bad for my younger self because they didn't know how to process everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So fast forward, I came into my adult years, and every Father's Day I would get sad and stuff like that. And there was one Father's Day that it was really bad. I didn't feel like going to church. I didn't feel like celebrating. And I prayed. I was like, Lord, what's wrong with me? And He was like, well, your dad's purpose on earth was completed with with bringing you guys into the world, me, my brother, and sister.
Wow.
And so that gave me a little relief to know that He served His purpose. He, and once His purpose was done, He was rewarded with heaven. But at the same time, understanding that still didn't allow me to deal with the grief. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a lot.
It really was. And so, 2018, at the end of 2018, my grandfather, who was one of the most, persistent and fatherly figures in my life, passed. And, we were there. I was there by his bedside when he died, when he transitioned. And so, with that death, and it was kind of sudden, with that death brought back the relationships that the relationship with grief that I had buried. And so, at that time, I felt like I had to be strong for my family. So, I would hide it or sweep it under the rug so I can be strong. And I felt like I've done that for so long.
And you never really dealt with it.
Yes. Like, I remember when my sister got married, she got a gift. And at the rehearsal, and rehearsals for our family is funny now. But at the rehearsal, she saw the gift, she ran out the church, right? And so then I was like, what's wrong? My mama saw the gift, she ran out the church.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so we got to this meeting space, and I saw the gift, and it was a heart necklace with our dad's picture and my sister's picture. And so everybody was tore up, and I was like, I can't show my emotions. Let me go ahead and be strong. And I was strong at that time, but on the ride home, I remember it because it was storming and it was raining, and it wasn't just raining outside; it was raining in my car. Like, I was like, I can't stop the cutting of the onions. I mean,
Aw.
but after that, I just mustered up the strength, and at the wedding, Brooke will tell you that I chewed gum the entire wedding because you're not about to see these emotions. And so, fast forward to my grandfather passing, I would deal with it in private, but in public, I was the strong one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, let's fast forward to our marriage. And so I proposed to Teresa, and in 2022 we started planning for the wedding. And Teresa asked me one simple question. Do you remember?
2021.
No, 2022 we started planning.
I know, but we already had some plans in place before you proposed, but
Okay.
go on, sir.
So, like I was saying, while we were planning for the wedding in 2022,
Lord Jesus.
she asked me one simple question, and I'm not sure if you remember, do you? And she was
I
like,
do.
"Oh, okay." So she was like, "What are you gonna do in memory of your dad?" And I was like, "Oh my God!" Like every emotion that I had swept under the rug, put in that closet, came at that time.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we honor him, and I knew that was something that would be a little difficult for you, and I just didn't want trying to cry.
So,
I'm sorry, y'all.
no, it's good.
I just didn't want that occasion to go by without honoring your dad. And when you, not to interrupt your story, but before we made it to the altar during our wedding planning process, Nick took me to his father and grandmother's gravesite.
Yes.
And it was a rough one, y'all. It was, I know it was tough on Nick, but it was equally as tough on me because, well, I won't say equally because I'm not saying that my pain was greater or up there with Nick. So just let me recant that. But I had pain as well because, I've heard so many stories about your dad, and I'm just like, I would never ever be able to meet him.
Yes.
And it still hurts that I can't meet the guy here. The guy that, God allowed to create you. The guy that people say that you, act just like, they said that you have your dad's mannerisms, and, I just have to live through that. And I'm not too sure, for some of you that are friends with us on Facebook, I wrote a heartfelt letter to my father-in-law, Nick's dad, on our wedding day, and I posted it. It took a lot for me to post it. It took a lot for me to write it because I had to hide it from Nick. But even during the wedding planning process, I would say, even when we would be going in the wedding aisle getting stuff for the wedding, I knew it would be hard on Nick, and there were times where he had to walk off, and I knew why.
Yeah. It was rough. And I talked to our pastors about it because, at this, it's supposed to be the most happiest time at our life, and I was still dealing with grief.
Right.
So, Teresa, she did write the letter, and I read it before the marriage or before the ceremony. Broke down, cried. I was like, okay, but I gotta get myself together. And so then we get to the venue, and she gave me a gift of a painting.
Now, before he gets into this story, I warned Nick that he wanted to exchange, bride and groom gifts. He wanted us to exchange gifts at the venue. And because of the type of gift that I got him, I told him I don't think it would be the right environment for him for that gift. And he was like, no, no, we're gonna be traditional. We're gonna exchange gifts before the ceremony. And I'm looking like, dude, I'm telling you, because little does Nick know, like I've hid. It was hiding in plain sight, but the whole time this painting was going on, like every time they would send me like the progress or the updates, my mom would tell you, I would call her like bawling in tears. And she would think something is wrong. She's like, Teresa, what's wrong? I was like, the painting. And she would just be like, oh Lord, like. So I'm telling you guys, like, it was hard for me to really keep that in. I kept it away from his family because I didn't even want the slightest chance of him even knowing what his gift was. And it was because I didn't trust them, but I knew how equally hard they would take it as well. So it was tough. I think that was one of the toughest parts of leading up to our wedding is
the gift.
The gift.
Oh yes. Wow. So fast forward, we're at the venue, and I chose to open it there because my guys were with me. My best man, my uncle, Teresa's father, and I call him Pops. He was there, and I had a few friends there as well. So I opened the gift, and it was a painting of me, my grandfather, and my dad. And when I tell you, it pulled at our heartstrings. Like my brother was messed up. The whole wedding party was messed up, and it brought me back to a space that I tried to ignore, but I have come to grips that this relationship with grief is ongoing. You know what I'm saying?
It is. And you know what? It's funny you said that because by me watching how you dealt with grief since, we've even dated, even up into, our marriage, even now, the holiday season, that has shown me, I know that grief comes in stages. I have friends that have actually lost their parents as well. And just seeing them how they navigate through that grief at different seasons of their life, that has really opened my eyes a lot.
Yes. So, the holidays come, and I've spent majority of my Christmases, Thanksgiving without my dad. So, today's podcast is how do we cope with it? You know what I'm saying? How do I deal with it? And Teresa, do you have any dealings with grief? I'm pretty sure we all do.
I do. My grief is a little different, not in the sense of a loss of a parent, but my grief is different from the loss of having, I would say, my parents are divorced, and that was a really tough time for me because I grew up with both parents in a household, a loving household, but when they divorced, it hurts me. And even though I'm 41 years old, it still affects me to this day because, my dad is remarried, great stepmom, but at the same time, that's grief for me because whenever events came up, like my graduation from college, from grad school, from me moving, to Charlotte, me buying a house, me, like all those grand events, even though everyone gets along, it's still an emptiness because I would never see my two parents together again. Yeah. So in the past, it used to stress me out a lot. Like when the holidays came up, I would prefer to go out of town or just not deal with it, or I'd rather just be by myself. And I did spend like Christmas and Thanksgiving by myself before, because I didn't want to deal with the stress of I have to go to, my mom's house, and then, spend some time there, a couple of days there, and then go to dad's house, spend a couple of times there. And then it's like I feel guilty when I say, hey, my mom like, hey, what you up to? I'm like, I'm gonna go to dad, my dad's house, blah, blah, blah. and it's just kind of like it still feels awkward, even
Yeah.
though it's been years. They divorced when I was 16, officially, and like I said, I'm 41 years old now, and it still affects me. So yes, I still deal with grief about that, and it's not so much that um, it's not so much that like I want to see them together again. It's just the fact that it's for me, there's still a void.
Yeah.
But luckily, God blessed me with you. I won't say luckily and God in the same sentence, but God blessed me with you.
Same here. I feel the same way.
And just having you there with me to navigate through those times, it helps. Even with our wedding, it was wonderful. I mean, again, everyone gets along very well. But again, for me, it's that little girl inside that says, hey,
Hey, Big Teresa.
only if your parents can be. So that's how I deal with grief at times. But again, I thank God for a strong support system.
Yeah.
And a loving husband.
Same here. If we can go back to the wedding and dealing with grief, I was so blessed to have you there because I was finally able to share and vent to somebody and they hold me up. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that my family didn't, but I always tried to be strong for them. At this time, I can be vulnerable with you and you have my back. And so I really do appreciate that and I love you for that. You never made me feel less than a man while I was sitting there bawling my eyes out.
I never will.
Thank you. I appreciate you, girl.
Appreciate you too, baby.
So, we are going to be talking about how we cope with grief in the holidays. So, do you have any coping skills or how do you deal with grief?
For one, I pray a lot. Two scriptures come to mind. The first one is Psalms chapter 34, verse 18. It says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." And, there are times where my spirit is crushed. And when it comes to dealing with grief, that's one of the scriptures that does come to mind as well. Then there's plenty of scriptures in the Bible, of course, that talk about grief as well. But there's one that particularly stands out. And it's also mentioned again in the Bible, but this one is Psalms chapter 55, verse 22. It says, "Cast your cares on the Lord and he will sustain you." And there are times, where we go through life and I find other things to help cope with instead of turning to God, because I then get convicted and I'm like, you know what, God, I didn't cast my cares on you.
Right.
You will sustain me. So why am I turning to other things and other people and not casting my cares on you? Now, the human side of me wants to say, hey, but God isn't here physically. Sometimes I just need a hug.
Yes.
I just want to cry,
Yeah.
So what about you, babe?
I'll talk from the physical perspective since you have the spiritual.
Oh, wow. I just want to leave the people with a little something to settle in this spirit.
Okay, so one thing I like to do around the holidays that I can cope with grief is being around my family and my friends. As Teresa knows, I love being around family during the holidays. It keeps my mind at ease. I love laughing. I love the relationships that I have with both families now. And so, if I can surround myself with love during the holidays, I'm good. Another way that I cope with it is giving back. There has been a few years where I've been able and blessed to donate time and work during the holidays, like giving back, serving at soup kitchens to the less fortunate. Those are good ways because you will realize that you're still blessed no matter what state you are in at that time.
Right.
You're still blessed to be a blessing to someone else.
Right.
And so those are two ways. And the last way is just trying to remember the good times that you have had with that loved one before they transition. With my grandfather, there's a few times that I remember that we had like had fun during the holidays. Two of them was like my grandfather. He was consistent with giving us checks for Christmas. And
come on,
I know, right? But he never signed my check with the correct name. Like, and so out of 33 years, he didn't know how to spell my name. And I believe he knew how to, but because he wanted to spell it N-I-C-H instead of N-I-C-K, that's the way he spelled it.
He did it his way. I'm not mad at him.
I was concerned when I had to take that check to the bank, you know. And so that, and you know, we were used to a certain amount of money from him.
Yeah.
Until more grandkids came. So for me, So me, my brother, and my sister, we would get a nice check for Christmas. I was like, okay, come on through. And then my cousins started coming. I was like, okay, that check is a little slim, but okay, come on through. Then my niece and my nephew came. I was like, okay, all right. Thank you, Papa.
Thanks, Granddad.
Yes. And my grandfather, he loved chicken, and that's where I get it from. And so one year, we decided to have a crab boil for Christmas. Yeah, horrible idea. So all he comes to the house is, where's the bird? Where's the bird? The bird is the word. But I felt him on that. So we were the only two people there eating fried chicken while everybody was eating crab legs and stuff like that.
Hey, fried chicken is not a bad meal though.
It ain't. Right. Last story that I have about him, in his later years, he decided to pick up baking. So he would bake goodies and cakes and pies and stuff like that. So one thing I want to let everybody know is don't decide on Christmas or Thanksgiving to bake something new, okay? So he made this pound cake with this cream cheese, frosting, and icing like that. Oh, it looked good.
Did you just?
Yes, I did.
Oh wow!
It smelled good. Until we cut into it, it was still raw in the middle.
Oh, Grandpa!
So needless to say, we didn't eat that. We didn't touch it, but we laughed about it and we joked with him about it. And so those are the things that keep me in good spirits around the holidays.
Very good, babe. Very good. I will say that, you know, for those of you that are dealing with grief, whether it's the loss of a sibling, grandparent, I recently just lost the last of my grandparents in October, so I have no more living grandparents.
You got no grandma?
Yeah, I do.
Don't you?
You know what? Praise the Lord. See how the Lord has just stepped right on in?
Lonely every time.
Shout out to Grandma Mary Ruffin. We love you.
We love you.
But you know, I often think about that because I do miss that aspect of it as well, and I'm sure my parents do. So not only that, you know, I felt much like you, Nick. You know, I had to be the strong one. You know, it was just hard seeing my mom having to go through with the loss of now both parents, and my dad with the loss of both parents. So,
wow.
You know, still being strong for them in that aspect, but then in private, like you said before, going to, you know, being in my room or just being at home and just breaking all the way down. But I'm glad that God has strengthened me to be there for them. And I like the fact that we reminisce and we talk and we joke.
Yes.
About like certain things like our grandparents used to do, or something funny, especially my dad's dad with him preaching and stuff, his dentures would be slipping, just little stuff like that, you know, just the things he used to say.
What did you say, the beneficial?
His favorite sermon was when he would get up when it was time for my grandfather, Lord rest his soul, was still preaching well into his 90s. He stood at about 6'4", tall guy, but whenever he would preach, his go-to sermon was in the insurance policy.
Come on now.
But we already knew where it was going because he's preached it over the years so many times, and he was like, the insurance policy, and I'm the beneficial of it, not beneficiary, but beneficial.
Oh wow.
And Lord, that still blesses me to this day.
Come
so
on, beneficial.
We still laugh about it, but we're not doing it in a picking way. It's just good memories for us when we see things like that, or we talk about my grandmother's homemade biscuits where my dad tried to mimic the recipe and it didn't go so well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was still flour left on top of it. It just tastes like a whole mound of flour. But God bless you, Dad. You could cook in other areas, but those biscuits just wasn't it. But
I got faith in you, Pops.
So it's just things like that, thinking about the good memories that definitely it helps me cope with that. And the loss of some of my dad and my mom's, their siblings, so they deal with all of that as well. And even with my best friend, with the loss of her dad, it still hits me and it hits her pretty hard, and I try to be there the best way I can for her. So I think, as you and I continue to grow in this area, that God would strengthen us. And now that, we've been appointing over the Widow and Grief Share Ministry, that we too will be actually learning throughout this process. So I think God picked two great people for this. So as we continue to learn and help others, we will be helping ourselves as well. And I thank God for that.
Yeah. In the words of the right Reverend Ronald Isley, sometimes I find myself drifting on him. Huh?
Wow.
Yes, Lord.
And with that, folks, we're going to transition into another segment. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
All right.
All right, so now we're going to jump into some of our favorite holiday stories. We already shared a little bit with you, just in general, and then we're going to talk about some of our top holiday songs, top holiday foods, and then we're going to conclude. We're going to do a quick shout outs to a few folks as well. But so babe, what's one of your favorite holiday stories?
One of my favorite holiday stories. So I remember around the holidays that I never liked chitlins, right? And yes, we are.
Oh, wow.
My grandma would cook them in the house, and we would have to open windows in the winter because the house was so raw. I mean, it was bad. Like,
it's nothing. I'm sorry,
yes,
Grandma. We love you, but
we love
Lord.
you. But I remember that was rough. Like, I remember opening the window and sleeping outside. Like, my head was hanging outside the window.
Oh God.
It was bad. So one of the worst whoopings I got in my life.
Know what I'm cooking?
No.
Oh, sorry.
We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Another podcast. But okay. I got a whooping because I broke the most expensive Christmas gift within 24 hours.
Oh, I would have told you about that too.
Yeah, so at that time, you remember Sears and Roebuck?
Yeah. Sears was it.
Sears.
That catalog come out, man.
Yes, I got an electric drum set.
Oh, you were fancy.
Yeah, I was on my way to being a musician. But I wanted to be a wrestler at the same time.
Oh, wow.
So after I got the Christmas present, the very next day, we had friends over and we had a bump day.
I'm just shaking my head
And
already.
we love wrestling. We like jumping off the top one.
Wow.
So we jumped off the top one. We missed each other, but I fell on my drum set.
Your brand new electric drum set.
It was in the pieces. And my mom, I was like, can't you just take it back? She was like, no. And so I had to first of all, after I got a whooping, I had to put the drum pieces on different chairs and play it like that. That was really bad.
I would have told you.
Yeah.
You knew better.
those are a few of my stories. What about you?
Well, for me, I would say I was 9 going on 10, and I can remember we were building our house from scratch. My mom and dad would, we would go out there to the site. We could see the progress of, them building the house. And it was time for us to move on in. Man, what a happy day that was.
Oh, happy day.
So for the time being, my sister and I still shared a room because we didn't know what they were doing was getting the other room ready so we could have our own rooms.
Oh, wow.
So we shared a room before because we had bunk beds, which my dad built. Shout out to Dad. And we had a swing set under it too. Yeah, my dad was just very creative. But nonetheless, I digress. So so I remember on Christmas morning, we wake up. Y'all, I'm telling you, it was just like, I don't know what kind of Christmas that was. My parents went all out. Me and my sister had brand new TVs to go. We had brand new TVs. So in my head, I kind of like, well, why does Tawana have a TV? And I have a TV, like, we're sharing a room, like, how that's gonna work? But nonetheless, my dad had a whole weight bench set. Like, it was, I'm telling you, we was rolling in the dough, okay? We weren't rich by any means.
Y'all out here buying houses. Y'all had some type of money.
Hey, that was the Lord. Don't do that.
Okay.
We would not apologize for how the Lord blessed us that year. But I mean, I just remember, and actually we still have pictures we took with a Polaroid. And I remember the Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer nightgown that I had on. My hair was slicked back in a little ponytail, like it is now. Okay. Nonetheless, I remember waking up that Christmas morning, and I mean, just the TV alone, that just did it for me. I could barely remember what else I got because I'm gonna tell you, if any of y'all knew, y'all thought y'all was grown when your parents handed you down the TV, that they upgraded from. That's what we had in our room, but the picture wasn't clear, so y'all used to have to beat it on the top. But when my parents would sleep and I wanted to watch TV, I couldn't just sit there and be like, bam, bam, bam. So it was like a soft bam. But when I saw that TV, man, it was a 19-inch. You couldn't tell me nothing.
Nothing? Okay.
Nothing. So Tawana ended up getting the TV VCR combo.
Oh.
That tells our age, right?
Right.
So you couldn't tell her nothing either. So I remember they walked us to the back and they were just like, hey, I'm thinking like, okay, well, we sharing a room, but we have two TVs. Like, how's this gonna work? When they opened up that other door, it was Tawana's room.
Oh, wow.
We were so happy. Tawana had her own room. I had my own room. Now you really couldn't tell me nothing. TVs, that, like I said, we got other things too. Actually, I did get a wedding dress Barbie, a wedding day Barbie. I actually still have her in the box as we speak. I never took her out to play with her. I actually have it in our house now, baby.
Oh, that's something else I need to do.
No, you will not. So, that is one of my favorite holiday stories, is just the sheer joy that all four of us had at the time. My brother came over later, but just the sheer joy and happiness that my family felt. We were in a new home. We had our own rooms. My dad had this weight bench, and I mean, I'm telling you, it's just like we was rolling in dough that year. So somebody had a good Christmas bonus that year, praise the Lord. It wasn't everything off my Sears and JCPenney's Christmas list from those catalogs, but it was more than enough, and I thank the Lord for that. So that's one of my favorite holiday stories.
Yes.
Now we're gonna transition so from holiday stories to holiday songs and holiday foods. Now,
okay.
We already got an inkling of what Grandma Mary likes. She likes chitlins. That's not it for me. But what are some of your top holiday songs? And I know what my favorite one is, but what's yours?
Off gate.
Yes.
My favorite holiday song is "This Christmas" by Donny Hathaway.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yes, I've been playing it since after Christmas.
We know. After Thanksgiving.
Oh, I'm sorry, after Thanksgiving.
Yes, we know.
Yes, that's my favorite holiday song. Top two, in second place is "What Do the Christmas.
Why does that song resonate with you like that?
Cause it's a depressing song, but it's funny. You know, it's just funny to me. That's top 2.
Well, my top 2 are, so it's 2 versions. 2 of my favorite versions of this song is Favorite Things. One is by John Coltrane. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the saxophonist, the jazz saxophonist. One of my favorite all-time jazz musicians. That's who I really, really love. John Coltrane is my top, along with Simone, Frank Sinatra, all those. But his rendition of Favorite Things, Lord, that, and then the Supremes. It has to be the Supremes version as well. Favorite Things.
Okay.
Anybody else that sings it, I'm like, no, I don't want to hear it. It doesn't compare. If it's not John Coltrane or the Supremes singing it, I don't want to hear it.
Okay.
And then the last song, I would say my second song, would be my top 2, is Merry Christmas, Baby by Otis Redding. I could play that song over and over and over again. That is my song, because when that breakdown come on, when he said Santa came down the chimney, I said, you better come on, Otis, you better sing that song. But those are my favorite 2 top songs. Now, when it comes to holiday foods, we all overindulge in some type of way.
Yes.
So what is your go-to, like your guilty pleasure?
This might sound weird.
Lord knows, Nick can eat turkey all during the year. I eat it on one good day and I'm good to go. I like a good sub turkey sandwich, but no.
I like
this one.
I can eat anything turkey. Turkey wings, turkey necks.
When we go to a barbecue place, I always get brisket. He always, I bet you don't want no smoked turkey. No, like you about to turkey me to death. No, I don't want it.
So, yes, I'm the person who wants the traditional Thanksgiving meal and Christmas meal to be the same thing. Turkey, ham, all of that.
Well, if I done had it once, I don't want it anymore. That's it. My one time a year. I'm good to go.
Okay. That's one thing. What's another? Go ahead, baby. You tell your top 2 and I'll come back.
I would say for me, I have to have eggnog.
Okay.
Now that I'm a little older, I have to get the one without the lactose, because you don't know how that goes.
Yes.
But yes, I don't mind a little sweet eggnog. Praise the Lord.
All right.
But my dad, growing up, we've always drank eggnog around Christmas, like always. Ever since I was little, my dad would always get that Mayola carton.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
With eggnog in cursive and this green, white, and red. And I remember that carton ever since I was little. So eggnog is always a must around this season. As far as favorite foods, I mean, of course, my mom has everybody addicted to her pumpkin bread.
I was gonna say that might be my top 2.
I want to say it is, because Nick's family is going crazy over. Shout out to my mama baking the pumpkin bread.
That
Lord.
pumpkin bread is clutch.
And I talked to her yesterday. She's been baking all day yesterday. So you and your family will have.
Somebody might have it, but it's gonna be upstairs.
Oh, I hope they don't listen to this podcast, so they're going to be very upset.
Oh, one more thing. We call it Christmas crack. Yes. This lady at my home church, her name is Carla.
Shout out to Carla.
She makes this Christmas candy trail mix type stuff with like white chocolate drizzled on it. Every year I have to have it. And that's why we call it Christmas crack.
Well, shout out to Carla, because she gave me a bag last night, and I haven't tasted it yet, but I've been hearing so much about it, so I will.
If she won't, if Teresa won't eat it.
Oh no, I'm eating it. You're not having it.
Okay, I was about to say, because it will get gone.
No. I would say for me, another favorite is it's a family recipe. My great aunt, my dad's aunt, Lord rest her soul, Aunt Jane, she used to make $1 million pie, and so my mom has carried on that recipe. I just remember Oh Lord, it's so good, y'all. It's basically like crushed pineapple, condensed milk, Cool Whip. You put it all into a graham cracker crust with lemon juice as well. You mix it all in, let it set. Ooh, Father, I'm telling you,
It sounds good.
it's a nice treat. So that, the eggnog, and then I make a breakfast casserole every Christmas.
Okay.
So it's basically crescent roll dough, eggs, ground turkey, breakfast sausage, onions, peppers, cheese, bacon. We already hosting Christmas brunch, so we should put
I guess that's it.
We may or may not. I may cook it for the house, yes. But those are our favorite songs and our favorite foods. I'm pretty sure we could probably go on. So we're gonna take a quick break and we're gonna come back with the conclusion. All right, and we're back. So we are at the conclusion of this podcast. We hope what we shared personally definitely resonated with some of you, and we know that it's not always a joyous occasion this time of year and for other holidays, but we wanted to bring some encouragement, hopefully through what we shared in our stories and even the scriptures that we shared. We pray that it definitely resonated with you in some type of way, and definitely just hit us up and give us some feedback on what you thought. We didn't want to make the podcast too long, but we wanted to touch on those, but then also have, pretty much kind of like a joyous part of it. We didn't want it to be so downtrodden and so sad, but at the same time, we felt it was important to do this particular podcast because we've realized there's a lot of people dealing with grief this time of year and then throughout other holidays as well, but especially this season.
So I hope we've said something to brighten your day or giving you some tips to help you cope with grief. And if you are grieving, you can reach out to us at Kingdom Crawford social media sites, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. Or you can email us and we will get back with you. Our email address is candidlycrawford@gmail.com. So you have a friend in us.
Definitely, and you're not a bother.
And you're not alone.
So we love you guys, and we want to invite you, as we always do. You could definitely join us in worship on Saturdays at noon for a Sabbath service. We're not having any for the rest of the year 2022, but at noon at Uplift Christian Ministries at 9100 Homestead Drive, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28262. Also on Sundays at 10:55 a.m. For our Sunday worship service. And again, same address, 9100 Homestead Drive, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28262. Shout out to our very own pastor, Pastor Lionel Means Jr., along with First Lady Ashaki Means. We love you guys. Thank you so much for all of your support and even, allowing and entrusting us to lead some of the ministries that we are over. And if you can't join us in person, definitely make sure that you can join us virtually. Just type in Uplift Christian Ministries. You can search for it on YouTube and Facebook. All of the streams stay there on those sites, so if you're not able to make it at those times, you still can watch them at a later time as well. You might even catch Nick. Nick, he's a minister. For those of you who don't know, my baby is a minister, and he's actually been bringing forth the word a few times this year, and I'm very proud of him and where God is really taking him. So definitely join us. Also join us for Bible study online or in person as well on Wednesdays at 7. And then prayer meeting. If you have a prayer request at any given time, it doesn't have to be just on Tuesdays where we have the prayer meeting at 6:30 p.m. But any prayer request or anything, you email us. Catch us, as Nick said, Kennedy Crawford. Kennedy Crawford on all social media sites, and then also KennedyCrawford@gmail.com. We love you guys. Please, we are always open to ideas for new topics. If you have any questions, we can always do a part 2 of this episode as well. But we want to say that we love you.
Yes.
We're here to support you in every way that we can. And thank you so much for taking the time out to listen to us. Any parting words, babe?
No, just Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We're going to come back 2023 with some banging podcasts, some ideas and topics. So just be on the lookout for us.
Definitely. And it's definitely going to get a little personal. Like, we're not just doing like little fluff topics. We're hitting real life topics. So if you guys have any topics you want us to speak on, definitely hit us up. But where can they find us again, babe?
Candidly Crawford on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Anchor, Spotify.
Thank you. Follow Candidly Crawford. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe and share so we can continue to be more visible and spread the word to help others as well, because that's our mission. It's not us, it's all God.
Yep. All right.
Well, Merry Christmas, guys. Happy New Year.
Christmas, baby. So did you treat me right.
Leave it to Otis. Thank you. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.